Andy.
How's it going?
What's up, dude? Thanks for chatting today, man.
Yeah, anytime. Glad to talk with you. It'd be fun.
Look at you kicking ass, landing placements, kicking more ass. So real quick, we're going to listen to your track that you just landed. But I want to kind of go through your entire story and everything. Before we were chatting today, you talked about being a session musician in Nashville, which is fucking sick. I've done session work like my whole life, so I definitely know the hustle and the fulfillment of doing that. So it's really great. But yeah, man, let's start out. Like, where are you from? I already said, but where are you from? And yeah, everything, man.
You said I live in Nashville now, which I've lived here the last like almost 9 years.
Okay.
Originally from outside of Philadelphia.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
So yeah, I was born there. Went up through high school there, then went to college in Maryland at Towson University. So just
good school. Okay, great.
And then right after I graduated there, moved here. And then now, Nashville just kind of is home now to me.
Nice. Did you go to school for music, or you went for something else?
No, I studied audio production, which included it did include some like music recording, but also like sound for television and film, like Foley.
Very
work,
cool.
Sound for student projects and stuff like that. But really, I wanted to play music and do some kind of music, and just figured I would, instead of studying music or jazz or classical or anything, just felt like I would get a lot out of just the recording side of things, which now comes in handy because, I mean, especially in Nashville, everybody, if you're a session musician or whatever it is, everyone has some kind of home rig or whatever. So
right. Well, I think the very powerful thing about learning how to produce or record yourself is like you ultimately just have more control over your career. You know, if you're writing, that's awesome, but until you can actually like produce yourself, you're going to be dependent on somebody else working on your record, their revisions, what they think is going to sound good. It's just, if you learn the skill yourself, you have so much more control over it. And, just being in production, like you learn the business of it, I feel like so much quicker, man.
Yeah. Like being able to use like a DAW, Pro Tools or whatever it is, it's almost like another instrument in itself. So like if you already play instruments like that, it's, naturally just going to be another tool for you to use to create.
That's how I always looked at it. So was the plan always to move to Nashville, or did you kind of just have like a fuck it moment where you're like, I'm going?
I had some friends of mine. I had a buddy who went to Vanderbilt for undergrad.
Okay, cool.
Who I was in a band with all throughout high school. And I would go visit him in the summer. Like he would stay and have internships. And so I'd like stay with him and stuff just to hang out. And I just kind of thought it was cool. And as I was kind of getting ready to graduate, I was like, well, maybe I do want to kind of either work in a studio or whatever, be an engineer, or really what I want to do is play, I was like, well, I think the only place to really do that, like sustainably, like gig and like making, a living from like playing music is like move to Nashville and meet people. So I did. And I kind of based on kind of my buddy liked it. So, and I had spent some time here. So I figured I'm just going to move down here and see what happens. And
nice. What would you say your primary instrument is?
The steel guitar. You can kind of see it over here.
What?
Yeah, so pretty much.
That's dope.
I do kind of a lot of the, like utility sort of stuff, but steel guitar is kind of my primary thing now. But I do a lot of like acoustic guitar and banjo and like mandolin on sessions and stuff like that. I'm kind of like the catch-all guy, but typically if I'm only playing like one thing on a session, it's usually steel. That's kind of my main thing, I guess.
Whoa, that's sick. So what? A lot of people may not be as familiar with steel guitar. So what would you say the primary differentiation of being a working musician for that instrumentation would be differently than just, strictly acoustic or electric or what have you?
I think it's kind of a niche instrument where like, I mean, in Nashville, it's not uncommon or anything, but it's...
Yeah. Is this pedal steel or like just straight up steel guitar?
Well, like pedal steel, like...
Okay, cool.
Or like, I guess the umbrella term for steel guitar could be anything from like a lap steel or anything
right.
Anything that's played with like a steel bar like this. So
perfect.
Like,
okay, cool.
And the pedal steel kind of is like the table looking sort of thing. And
so dope, dude. Oh my God.
Yeah, there's no frets, so it's just that you slide guitar across the strings.
See,
10 strings, it's a little different.
You know what's interesting is like, here's the funny thing is like, I'm all for like remote first. Like I live in Charlotte by way of New York. I've moved around a bunch, and I do think you can absolutely do whatever you want to full time from wherever in the world, in this day and age. That being said, for pedal steel or steel guitar, there is a huge concentration in Nashville because it's just so popular in country music.
Right. Yeah. And just country music is such a tight knit community. Like it, to get a lot of the session work in country is a lot of just being here and just kind of being in that community and word of mouth connections, really. So.
Do you know Johnny Fung by any chance?
I know the name. I don't think
he's a really good friend of mine. Cool. he was like one of my mentors here in Charlotte. He ended up moving to Nashville with his wife a few years ago. But he got really into lap steel, pedal steel, and I think he's on a Keith Urban with on that. Nice. So that's sick, man. I love like the accessory specialist instrumentation. Like it's so cool because you really just like glue the entire record together as a producer.
Yeah. I like just kind of adding whatever's needed and kind of shifting around in different chairs of the session and stuff.
So when you first moved out there, how was networking? You said you knew some people. Your buddy went to Vanderbilt, but I'm assuming you didn't know everybody. So how was that? No. What was that like?
And my buddy who went to Vanderbilt left for undergrad out in California, so he wasn't planning on staying here. So it's just I didn't know anybody. We'd just go out and kind of network at like bars and different like songwriter rounds and stuff, and just started meeting people. Eventually got some work playing like live in town, and then also doing some like road stuff, just like cover band, just like playing bars and going in a minivan and going to do that kind of stuff. And
so what was your kind of like technique to get tight with a bunch of people? Because in music, you need a vouch, right? Like somebody has to vouch for you. So, were you taking people out to coffee, taking them out for drinks? That's kind of always been my move. It's like free coffee on me.
Yeah. I don't know if I was really taking people out or anything, but just like, going and meeting someone maybe at a bar or something and saying, hey, I play this. I'm new. If you ever need a sub or some last minute thing, I'm probably available. And then once something like that happens, like on a gig that, the bass player's like, hey, you do this. Okay. I have something next week where you might be good. You're available, right? Like you're just new and just kind of one thing leads to another like that. But no real technique other than just kind of being yourself and making like genuine relationships and and just like understanding that it's sort of a slow process.
You can't really beat that, you can't beat just like people trusting you, and that just takes time, in any music industry specifically, but really anywhere. It's just, you being able to follow through on what you say you can do. And that's a hard thing in music because music is so subjective. Who can say if you did a good or bad job? It's, right?
Yeah. I think it just has a lot to do with like how you get along, how you relate to other people in the band or the session, whatever it is, like, just like your personality and just understanding how to read the room and understanding how to read body language and different things like that. Just having good social skills and things like that.
Yeah. One of my buddies, I was on the phone with him last night. They just got off a European tour and, they had a sub drummer and a sub guitarist sorry, my dog's barking in the back. I don't know if you know.
Oh, it's all right.
I'm having a water bottle. I just ordered a water bottle from Amazon, so I'm very excited about that. But anyways, so my buddy was just on his European tour as an opener, and they had a replacement drummer, like a sub drummer and a sub bassist or guitarist. I'm not sure. I forgot. But anyways, it was a really, really good time. But he told me the lead singer of the headliner, came up to him, towards, I guess maybe after one of the first shows and was just like, hey, we really like these guys. Like we played with you before and like, we love the people you had, but these guys they're really great. Like we're vibing. Like this is a good tour. So,
right.
I guarantee they're going to be on the next leg, it's, even if you just play a real, it's like dating. It's like you could be healthy. You could, not say any bad words. Like you could be great to your parents, but if you just don't vibe, if you don't connect, you're not going to get a second date,
Totally.
Then again, who's meeting parents on the first date? But
yeah. And for the guys they were subbing for, it's not necessarily even anything personal. Just like when something works, it's like, hey, let's do this. And so
I'd say like having a really good, because everyone talks about like IQ, but like having a good EQ, like an emotional intelligence in music is that, to me, that is like the biggest strength you can have is just being able to feel out the room.
Totally, yeah. In sessions, especially, that's just like so much is reading
studio etiquette, bro.
Yeah, in Nashville, I mean, you're typically tracking with a full band, like 6 guys in the band, the producer, the artist, whoever else is there, and it's just a lot about like reading, like, well, who's kind of calling the shots today, and where's my role in this? Just kind of understanding whether it's my time to kind of suggest an idea or stay back or whatever. So there's just a lot of that dynamic that's in play.
You always have to be appropriate to the mood, and like especially with studio etiquette. I mean, it's just a matter of like, making sure that everyone is in a good position to do what they need to do so you don't run up studio costs. Like, bro, I worked at the studio years ago. It's probably a decade ago. And I got hired on a gig as a session drummer. That was my primary means of income. And the producer like definitely wanted his own drummer in there, but I guess like not the producer, the studio owner wanted his own drummer in there, but the producer wanted me. And so the studio drummer, or excuse me, the owner started like shit talking like in the session, and it just like ruined the mood. And it just so happened that like I was doing my takes that day.
Yeah. And
so like it didn't end up panic. Like there were all the drums were being replaced anyways with samples, it's like they weren't using the actual, you know what I'm saying? But it's like you can just change the mood and like the gig cannot pan out for you. And it's like, so you just have to be on everybody's good side.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. That sucks that someone.
Dude, that was the only time it happened. Every other time, like session drumming has been fucking phenomenal. Like I love it. That was just like the one time, but of course I'm going to harbor on it.
Yeah.
But it's all about the mood. Anyway, so started doing a lot of session work. And so started kind of building your name around town. And you're doing this, full time. And so you started gravitating into sync, or how has that kind of transition been made? And, I'm assuming you tour, like you do a bunch of stuff.
So so backing up a little bit, I moved here, started meeting people, eventually landed a gig touring with like a pretty well-known country artist by the name of John Party. So,
cool.
I did some touring, like probably for about 4 years, like all the late shows, all like the, we did like arenas and stuff like that. And
that's dope, dude.
It was a great vibe. And yeah, it was something just kind of a natural first step for someone here. You typically don't go right into just doing studio stuff and playing on records. So I did that, doing that and loving it. And then also during the week, like we'd go out on weekends, typically how country is. And then during the week, I'd come back and do as much session stuff as I can and just try to keep up contacts like that. And, after about 4 years, I knew the goal was always to be like a studio musician and just made the conscious effort to quit that gig and just do studio stuff full time and just be more available for stuff. It was getting to the point where I was turning down different things and knew that, I kind of wanted to be home more first. I mean, I'm married and so knew I kind of want to ended up, living kind of in town and playing on records full time. So
you would say kind of transitioning to primarily session work was a lifestyle decision.
Yeah, a lifestyle decision, and I think I just like the creative process a little bit more of like putting together a song rather than playing the same 10 songs over and over for a couple years at a time. And just, it's more music for me. I kind of like the puzzle of like figuring out how a track comes together and just.
Well, I think like what's very common, growing up, wanting to pursue music, I think people project what they think your dream should be. And what's very often is, you need to be on these big tours. You need to be this massive rock star, blah, blah, blah. And that lifestyle doesn't, you can't, I don't think you have the ability to like shit talk until you actually like do something like that, where you're actually like part of something, Yeah. It's okay. My dog is barking too.
Yeah.
But like, you good. But yeah, but like the thing is that when you kind of move in that direction, you can decide whether or not that direction is healthy for you or not. And I think most people get to that position and they think like, oh, I'm not really enjoying this. Like I'm really stressed out, but this is supposed to be what I want. So they just stay there, and then that can kind of become healthy. So I think it's really cool that you got those opportunities. You did it. You said you could do it. And you realized, hey, this isn't like really a great match. Right. So I'm going to transition to primarily session work.
Yeah, I think even going into it, I was like, I do want to I do want to tour for a while, but I knew I didn't want to tour for like 30 years or something,
right.
Just kind of something in my 20s, essentially for, the better part of like 4 years. That was a great experience. And, but yeah, then I kind of made the shift to just go, hey, I want to stay in town and just try to, do this session thing as my full-time gig. And that was about
awesome.
a little over 3 years ago. So
As a session musician, what would you say like your average week kind of looks like, work wise, like, know, 'cause it can kind of go in and out, but I feel like it grows over time where it just becomes very consistent where it's like, I'm doing this. Yeah.
I'm to the point now where I'm probably doing like anywhere from like, 5 to like 14 sessions a week. It can be really busy.
Awesome, dude. That's amazing.
That's like full band, go somewhere to a studio, do a 3-hour, Nashville session, whatever, with the other band. So I do that. Yeah. On a real busy week, it can be like 12 to 14, like multiple 3 sessions a day essentially.
It's awesome, man.
And then like if there's maybe one day I'll have a 10 to 1 session, and then in the afternoon I'll have a couple tracks here that people have sent me because I do a lot of overdubbing from my studio, even just for people in town. Just say, hey, can you throw some steel on this? Can you throw some banjo on this track? And so I do a lot of tracking from home too. And then
that's awesome, man.
And then how I got into the sync thing from like when I got off the road and wanted to be here full time, I would have sessions and stuff and just kind of was piecing things together and getting more busy. But when I had like a morning or even a day off, I'd kind of look into making some tracks just for, I didn't really know for what, but just kind of producing just sort of instrumental tracks, mostly acoustic based stuff, kind of folky things. And eventually kind of found that pitch for kind of pursuing that as like, saying, hey, I have this morning off. I'm going to try to create 2 tracks here to pitch. Yeah. That's going to be my session for this morning,
That's dope.
And just it became as like a kind of a filler of like, what can I do here to kind of, practice recording and engineering myself and just getting quick and just, getting better composition skills and different, what works in a track, in terms of other instruments and stuff like that. And it became sort of a thing that I really liked doing. So, that's kind of how it became into the sync thing. Yeah.
And the thing is like sync, sync, I think is like the overall term, but of just like getting songs underneath the film, right? That's the ultimate, like how it's getting used. But at the end of the day, it's how can I put music that I create into a position where it just becomes an asset and it starts accruing me, royalty checks over time. I don't know if this was for you, but I know, my days of primarily session drumming that like me getting a point or a couple percent on the track was just like not going to be a thing. It was always like paid work. This is what you're doing. It's these hours, blah, blah, blah. I had a couple records that I was able to get, like, I forgot what it was, but like a couple points in publishing, but it was very, very rare. So I think and again, I don't know if it's the same for you, but what I think is like really important when approaching a music career is like, okay, I have my right now, my money that I'm making right now. And then I have like what I'm building over a long period of time. And what people do is they start with the long time thing. They start with, I need to get signed. I need to, get a bunch of royalties coming in and then I've made it. But you need the short term as well. Like you need both because the long term is not going to play out until, it could be 3 months to be honest, but like over a long period of time, you just build a catalog that's making you money. And you're still also making short-term revenue. And the golden ticket for a very, very stress-free life, in my opinion, is by making sure that you're accommodating both of those, the short-term and the long-term sort of money,
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, definitely one of the pluses of getting into creating songs for sync licensing was to kind of slowly start building that sort of like passive type of income, and then short term too, as sometimes with the upfront, fees and stuff. But
dude, it's
slowly build the catalog. Yeah,
it's crazy. Like I was just on the call with a member in Hawaii, and he was saying like he got like close to 10K this past quarter just in royalties, and like I didn't, because that's going directly to his BMI. So like I didn't know personally because that portion did not go directly through that pitch. And I was like, oh, sick. Okay, cool. It's cool because it grows, but also, short-term payouts, everyone talks about like the upfront payment as the main thing. And that can be substantial, which is awesing. Right. But like the real G move is like the long-term play of just like, make sure you can retire kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Apart from like when you read like that pitch, like the briefs and stuff, like the fees there are one thing. But yeah, if once you get it registered and you get a check from BMI, it's like, whoa, wasn't even really thinking about this. And you're like, okay, that's kind of maybe a kind of a more sustainable goal. Give a track away, you kind of get this return from it.
Right. I've been joking lately that all the songs that you guys upload, it's like they're rental properties or you're flipping a house and I'm like the property management company.
Yeah.
We're just managing it, dude.
It's a good way to think about it. Yeah.
Right. Well, anyways, you seem to be killing it. So you landed this holiday track, and the holidays are coming up right now. We are recording this. It is, what is it? December 13th. So holidays are coming up real soon.
For sure.
I think Hanukkah starts this Sunday, but Christmas is always on the 25th. But who knows? We're overlapping this year, so.
The holiday one was actually it's a Halloween. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah. This is from I think from October, maybe September.
Because this was a few months back. Okay, we're just doing the interview right now, but this was okay. That's what you're telling me. Okay, so this was this was while one of our clients was building their catalog for upcoming Halloween. Right. So this is dope. All right, cool. And also, side note, there are when you talk about making money through through your catalog, there are people who I know a dude, all he does is just make Halloween music. And you know how when people are trick-or-treating, they have background music playing? Yeah. He makes no money all year. In November, he just makes a shitload of cash.
Yeah, exactly.
He just has a bunch of Halloween playlists. It's insane. So he'll put that on Spotify. I think it's coming out with an app. I'm not really sure when that's being launched, but yeah, you can have a very niche thing, and there are billions of people out there that will use it. So,
if you
anyways,
find something that's a niche thing and something that you enjoy, also, there you go. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's awesome. Anyways, all right. So this track is called. Wait a second. Actually, I gotta get better at this. I should just have it readied. Strange Visitors. Oh, I love that. That would be. I guess it could be Christmas for Santa, but who knows?
That's true.
All right, cool. This is Strange Visitors by Andy Ellison, and we are going to listen to it now. Here we go. That's dope. So real quick, how did you kind of approach that?
I think with a lot of this stuff, I kind of just come up with either a chord progression or some kind of an A-B pattern and kind of a verse chorus idea. And kind of once I have that kind of laid out, I just kind of think about adding just different things for different parts and then subtracting and just kind of making each sort of section feel a little bit different. I'll typically write on acoustic or some kind of, guitar thing. And then, just add stuff from there and, just sort of, kind of keep it moving along and just kind of constantly kind of listen back and just kind of think if it needs something here, just what can that be? And just kind of trial and error, really. Yeah.
Yep. I like how it builds over time. You kind of just like slowly. That's the thing with like Halloween music or like any sort of frightening sort of stuff. It just needs to build over time. I think like that's the main thing. Have an A B sort of thing, but just like make it harder and harder, and then it stops.
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
I love that. Yeah. That's awesome, man. A couple of questions I want to ask you before we end our interview today. Something I ask, everybody who joins me on the That Pitch podcast. But first thing, what advice would you give to anybody pursuing music as a career right now? And also, where can people find you online? If you got any pluggables, plug them,
Yeah. I think just for anyone pursuing music, and that can mean a lot of different things. But I think, well, first of all, we talked about this earlier, but just making genuine relationships. If you live in a city like I do, where there is an industry, going to events like that is one thing. But even if you are just more remote, there's just different networking things. And I shouldn't even say networking, but just like relationships that you can kind of make and cultivate and know that kind of getting yourself in a community like that is typically from my perspective, is how I kind of found work and just, finding people that'll vouch for you and just recommend you for stuff or whatever is just super important. But as long as those relationships are like genuine and stuff. So just doing that. And then, I think, and this kind of pertains to sync too, is like make music that a style of music that you are good at, but that you enjoy doing, because if you're successful at it, you'll get kind of called for that thing more and more. And you don't want to kind of
specialize,
get into a place where like now I'm the guy who does this sort of music that I don't really like doing.
Yeah.
Like
Andy's the steel guy. Like that's, just make it simple.
And I do like steel, so it works. But if
I was the indie pop guy, so I get it.
it's great to branch out and try different things, but there should be passion behind the type of music that you're kind of doing, and I think people can kind of sniff that out. So just kind of authenticity, I think, important when you're kind of creating anything, not just kind of getting stuff out there to fulfill some sort of request, but it kind of has to be like, this guy's into this or this girl's into this style of music. I can really kind of feel that,
100%. And where can people find you online?
Mostly, I guess Instagram is just at AC Ellison. I don't post a ton there. And then I have a website too, andyellison.com.
Andy, thank you so much for joining me on this. And if any of you out there want to reach out to Andy, go to his site or Instagram. Thank you so much, dude. And we will talk soon.